Good morning and welcome back to Stay Sober While Traveling. This morning, I'm really excited because we're talking about traveling for weddings. Weddings can be so much fun and so intimidating for those of us who are sober, and some stuff about honeymoons and destinations for honeymoons as well. So I'm here today with Laura Frazier with Bliss Honeymoon and Destination Weddings. And I'm super excited to just kind of pick her brain and see what has developed as time has progressed for us sober folk to stay sober while still celebrating someone's special day. So Laura, if you want to just tell them just a little bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. So I started Bliss Honeymoons 18 years ago. And I started it out of the back. I had a little coffee shop in downtown Columbus in an office building. And I started the travel business out of the back end of my coffee shop. And within 6 months, we were so busy with travel that I sold off the coffee shop and have been selling travel and working from home ever since.
That's amazing. Now, do you, what a success story, by the way, 6 months. That's really, really good.
I was surprised. I was like, oh, this happened way faster than I would have anticipated. So,
which tells you there's a need, right?
Exactly.
There's a need. People want to do these awesome weddings where they get to go places and do these wonderful things. So very cool. Congratulations on your success, first of all. And so you're based in Columbus, Ohio. Mm-hmm. So are you doing just United States travel, or do you go other places? Let's talk about that, because I've seen a lot of stuff on Mexico, which looks really fun.
That's a great question. We actually don't offer any domestic travel other than Alaska and Hawaii. Everything else we do is outside the US. And all of our destination weddings, of course, are outside the US just because the availability of all-inclusive resorts is much better. It's just easier. The resorts in the Caribbean and Mexico have been doing destination weddings for a long time. They have a really good system in place. So most of the weddings that we do are in Mexico and the Caribbean.
Awesome. So what got you, what's your connection to travel that you went from owning a coffee shop to opening this traveling business?
Honestly, so I was a single parent, and I had been working in retail my whole life. And, when you work retail, it's nights, weekends, holidays. I was a store manager for a major coffee company. Somebody calls off sick, I had to come in. I remember somebody called off sick in the middle of my daughter's second birthday. And, and so it's just hard. And I made the decision, that if I'm going to go back to school and get a degree in something, I want a career that allows me to take vacations, to have time off, to have a better work-life balance. And at that time, Ohio University still offered a travel and tourism program. I don't know if they still do. I know some colleges still offer like a hospitality, which kind of, encompasses all of it. But so that's how this started. Of course, being self-employed, being an entrepreneur, there haven't been I travel a lot. I get to go to a lot of great places, but the actual vacations haven't happened nearly as often as I thought they would. But I do get to travel a lot, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's fair. There is a difference between a work vacation and a vacation.
Yeah. Yeah, I took a real vacation last summer and the summer before. I went to the Greek islands and was completely disconnected, didn't check my email, any of that. And it was really nice.
Did you go to Santorini?
I did go to Santorini. Yes.
My favorite. It's my favorite. That little town Oya up in the hills. Oh my gosh, I could just live there.
Yeah.
It's pretty epic. I have a funny story about Santorini. When we went there, we went on a small cruise line, and our cruise director, she was very involved because it was such a small ship. And I asked her, like, what is that like roped off area in the water down there, right off of where you're kind of going on the switchbacks up to the top? And she said, oh, I will tell you what that is, but only at the end of the cruise. And I'm like, that sounds really sketchy. What are you talking about? Well, last day of the cruise, she thought I was going to forget. I did not forget because of the way she responded. And I was like, so now you have to tell me, what is that? Apparently her son used to be a captain for cruise ships, and they analyzed the coral growth to see where the ships can go in and out. And apparently they didn't update the chart, and all this coral had grown. So he ran right into it. And the cruise ship sunk right there in the harbor. And it's still there. And she was on the ship. And so she's like, I grabbed my clothes and I'm running up the thing, and I had to leave my clothes because there was water and they're all yelling at me, like, but I'm thinking I'm important, so I can grab my clothes. So she said, my favorite wardrobe is at the bottom of Santorini in the harbor. And I thought that was just like, what? Oh my gosh. Now I see why you didn't want to tell us that.
Yeah.
And she said, for the record, that's the only crash that's happened in this entire cruise line and the entire duration that it's been. Yeah. And her son didn't end up getting in trouble because it was actually the people who monitor the coral who messed up or something. But oh my gosh, I will always remember Santorini because it's supposed to be where like the lost city of Atlantis is. Mm-hmm. And now there's also a lost cruise ship there. So fun fact.
Fun fact. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I had to go on a little tangent just because it's hilarious. Okay. Okay, so destination weddings and honeymoons. So you mentioned you get to travel a lot. Do you go and like look at the places that you're recommending, or how does that work?
Because you know, when you look at things online, like everything looks pretty online, right? Do you know how many things I returned to Amazon in the last year? And like if you order you know, a shirt or something from Amazon and it doesn't fit, you just like send it back. You're good. But if you go on your honeymoon and it's, you know, it doesn't look anything like you looked at online, you can't, you're there. What are you going to do? Right. And so, yeah, we travel all the time. And you know, everyone in our group is pretty well traveled. We all have different areas of the world that we specialize in. Like Callie does a lot of our Europe and Asia, but I mean, she has been everywhere. You know, I do a lot of Caribbean, Mexico, Tahiti, Greece, because those are the places where I've been. Obviously, there's no way that any travel agent can see every single hotel, right? That's not possible. But when we're making recommendations, you know, we're really listening to what people are looking for. Some people are really active. Some people are foodies. Some people just want something small and quiet where they can literally lay on the beach and read a book all week and not think about anything. And yeah, so knowing which resorts cater to that and which ones don't is super important. I will never forget, shortly after I started, I'd probably been in business for 2 or 3 years. I had somebody schedule an appointment. This is when we had an office. We closed our office after COVID, but, and they said, you know, can we come in and meet with you? It's, you know, we're on kind of a tight timeline. And I'm like, sure. So they came into the office. They had accidentally booked a clothing optional resort for their honeymoon and and wanted to know if I could somehow get them out of it. And they had booked it through like an online travel agency. And I'm like, you should have talked to me first.
I didn't even know that was really a thing still.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is. It's actually a lot more popular than what you would imagine. Yeah. And that's a whole different podcast. We'll do that one.
I was gonna say, so how have those adventures been in the nudist ones for you? Just kidding. But you know what? If you're into that, how cool that there's an option, right? But if you're not into that, you probably want to not go.
Right. You know, some hotels have what's called like a nude and a prude side.
Oh my gosh.
And then, but this couple unfortunately had booked a resort that was just like, there was no prude side. It was
no prudes allowed. Huh?
Yes.
Just let it fly.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Oh, well, I hope that they ended up having a wonderful honeymoon and maybe putting themselves out of their comfort zone.
Lot of interesting memories there for them. I'm sure. Yes.
I'm sure. And probably not too many pictures.
Not a lot of no.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
I wonder what the rules are for that. Like, no, just
Yes.
oh my gosh, this is hilarious. Okay. So, okay, it sounds like you're pretty versed in the different specialty niches for the travel. So the reason I found you was obviously because you had this really cool blog post about some of the all-inclusive resorts, especially being very sobriety friendly. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So last winter I was traveling with my daughter, Macy. Macy just had a baby. And you know,
congratulations.
Thank you. So when you're expecting, you obviously aren't drinking. And so we were in Mexico and we actually stayed at a couple of different resorts. Then we went home for a couple of weeks. Then I had to go back to Mexico for work again. So she came with me again. And it was really interesting because one of the resorts where we stayed, they were like so proud of their mocktails program. Oh. And like at one restaurant alone, they had 5 different mocktails and insisted that we try all of them. They were delicious. They were amazing. You know, obviously in my line of work, I have stayed at hundreds of hotels, right? And so I was really blown away by this. Then we went to another resort and they had the same 3 mocktails on the menu at all 8 of their restaurants, at all of their swim up bars. And inevitably, every time Macy would try to order one, they'd say, well, we only have the ingredients for this one.
Oh, geez.
Or I'll have to run over to one of the other swim up bars to get the ingredients because I don't have any of the ingredients here. Or, you know, like it's kind of a thing when you check in at one of the better all-inclusive resorts, the minute you walk into the lobby, they hand you a glass of champagne, you know, or they hand you a welcome cocktail. You know, even at breakfast at some of the resorts that we've been to, I mean, you know, sometimes they're joking, but they're like, oh, do you want a Bloody Mary? Do you want, excuse me, do you want a mimosa? Do you want a tequila? I'm like, it's 7:30 in the morning.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, it was really eye-opening for me. You know, one of the things that we specialize in has been all-inclusive resorts that cater to foodies and cater to people who have food allergies. Like I haven't eaten meat for 26 years. My daughter can't have gluten, dairy, nuts. I've had clients, I remember I had one client who was literally allergic to everything. She couldn't have eggs, she couldn't have dairy, she couldn't have gluten, she couldn't have strawberries, like, you know. And so before she arrived, we talked to the hotel. When she arrived at the hotel, she met with the executive chef at the resort, and at every restaurant during her stay, they had something for her to eat that was really delicious.
I love it. What resort was that? What ones are like pretty helpful?
That one was actually El Dorado Casitas Royale in Mexico.
Okay.
They did an awesome job. And I would say as far as working with people with food allergies, they're one of the better ones. You know, at every restaurant that you go to, when you check in at the, you know, go to the hostess stand, they ask for your room number. And then the first thing they say is, do you have any food allergies?
Love it.
So I think that resorts have done a tremendous job with getting on board with food allergies. You know, I remember 15 years ago, you would go to an all-inclusive resort, and if you're like at the big breakfast buffet, right? And they would have like a little section with like that said gluten-free, and it was like one gluten-free muffin
Right.
and a toaster with a little bit
I'm
gluten-free bread.
gluten-free. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like that pastry gets really boring and chalky after a while.
Exactly. And over the years, I would say that that has gotten significantly better. The
Mhm.
thing that has not gotten better, that the all-inclusive resorts, I feel like, are missing the mark on, is paying attention to people who don't drink. And, there are people that don't drink because, they are sober, and, and then there are people that don't drink for the same reason that I don't eat meat. It's just not a part of their diet. And so, yeah, I would say that there are resorts that are doing a great job of having sober people, dry people included, and some that have a lot of work to do in that.
Yeah. Would you maybe mention which resorts, like if you were me, so I have, I'm 14 currently in sobriety.
Okay.
Um but yeah, you're right. There's people who get sober for religious purposes. There's people who are temporarily sober because of medical things or pregnancies. And then there's folks like us who just drank way too much and now we can't anymore.
Right, right.
So what would you, if I was getting married again, which no, I already had one redo. Now I have husband 2.0 and hopefully he's forever. But if I was, what would be a couple resorts that you'd say, hey, this one might be a really cool one for your wedding or your honeymoon? Do you generally combine those together, like the wedding and the honeymoon with destinations?
I mean, every couple is a little bit different, right? Like some couples go to the destination, have their wedding there, and just stay in the destination, either at that hotel or a different hotel for their honeymoon. Other couples may go somewhere completely different. So everybody's a little bit different. I would say that, any of the El Dorado hotels in Mexico, El Dorado Royale, Casitas Royale, El Dorado Maroma, Seaside Suites. They do an awesome job catering to people that have food allergies, or Hotel Escrat Arte, which was the one where I stayed with Macy. They had a phenomenal selection of mocktails. And I think, if you're sober or you just don't drink, you're on a baby moon, whatever, that's a good one. Unico, which is also in Mexico. It's such a good hotel. They have really good mocktails. And then it's interesting. I had breakfast with my sandals rep yesterday.
Nice.
And Sandals is really doing a lot towards offering more options for people who don't drink, because I think people that, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you can only have so many virgin daiquiris before you're like, can
Well, and what if you're diabetic and you can't have sugar? Then you're just screwed. It's like, well,
yeah,
Diet Coke all week.
all week. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that what I would like to see is, I would like to see more of the all-inclusive resorts, really taking the same way that they have embraced gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, all of that stuff, embracing the booze-free, and and offering a better selection, and having consistently having in stock things for people that don't drink alcohol. But also, for some people, it may be triggering. A lot of times when you go to an all-inclusive resort and you sit down for dinner, there's already a wine list and a bunch of wine glasses on the table when you sit down, right? And so, maybe when you're at the host stand and they're saying, do you have any food allergies? Maybe asking, do you want a dry table? And just not having that stuff, so that someone like you never has to say, never has to make the decision of, do I want wine with dinner or not? It's just not, it's not a part of your diet,
I love that, the dry table. Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes it's, especially when I was newly sober, and like, some people knew, some people didn't know. And so if I'm at a table and they're just like, passing everything around, sometimes it was like, no, I'm not drinking tonight, and some servers would be like, well, why not? You're not driving.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and it's really uncomfortable to be like, no, girl, trust me, I'm not drinking. Like, you don't want that. You don't want that to happen in your restaurant.
Right.
But now I can say things like, no, I'm an alcoholic. Thanks anyway. But sometimes, like, especially they'll come around with like complimentary shots or things like that. And you're just like, no. And I don't want to have like a big X on my hand or something, like, when you're too young to drink at a restaurant or something. But it's so, yeah, having that just awareness, because I feel like in some places that's been so associated with fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it's like alcohol equals my guest is having fun. And I'll tell you, it's like, no, alcohol equals my trip being ruined,
Yeah.
So they're trying to be nice, but
Yeah.
I'm appreciating your suggestions too. And some of those resorts sound really tempting. I'm like, why aren't we going to Mexico?
Like, the other thing that is part of like a part of travel, a part of like the whole all-inclusive resort, is that so many all-inclusive resorts, you have a mini bar in your room that's full of beer. I have seen all-inclusive resorts that have these, huge liquor dispensers in their room. I'm like, who is drinking all of that?
Well, I would have.
Yeah. So, I think when we have people come to us and say, I don't drink, just like when my client who can't have gluten, we made sure that they had gluten-free beer in their minibar because they did drink.
Oh, nice.
So if somebody says we don't drink, making sure that there's not booze in their minibar when they check in at the hotel, that if there is like a liquor dispenser that typically comes to the room, that stuff isn't there either. A big thing is for honeymoon couples. Most hotels, when our couples check in, they have a bottle of champagne or a bottle of sparkling wine in their room. If somebody doesn't drink, that's not how they want to celebrate or relax. So I think that the hotels could do a much better job of, being sensitive to that. And understanding that alcohol just isn't a part of everyone's diet, and taking that approach to it, and instead of, asking people, oh, are you sober? Are you in recovery? It's nobody's business, right? Either drink or you don't. And if you don't want it in there, then it just shouldn't be there.
Right. I'm like, I'm saving you money, buddy. Like, we should be celebrating this.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Nice. So it sounds like your company kind of goes the extra mile too, and does, like, kind of tries to build that relationship with the resort so that you can tell them, like, I have this guest with this need. So that's really cool for people to know that there's just places like you that can really help when you're booking to alleviate that fear. Because just in my experiences, there's been a lot of times where I've, like, not wanted to go to a wedding in particular because, okay, so weddings, honeymoons are one thing. Love it. Sit on a beach. Yay. But weddings, that means family's going to be there. And, family is wonderful, but, like, no one can make you more joyous or more pissed off than your family. And angry people, what do we turn to? I want to feel better right now. Instant gratification. And so it's like weddings can be super triggering because, I mean, there's so many emotions, right? There could be that, oh, my sister's getting married and I'm still not married. Or there's like, now I have judgment from my aunt. Or now that there's just all these layers of weddings and what should I wear and all that. And it can be triggering for people who have addiction because we just often have anxiety or insecurities around it. So what a cool gift to just know that, okay, I'm going to this wedding, but, like, the alcohol maybe it's going to be there, but it's going to be over there, not like on every table. Because when I get to a wedding and then all of a sudden, like the champagne's already poured in everybody's seat, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what we can do, like with wedding groups, we have had wedding groups where like we had one last year where the groom didn't drink. And so again, we approach it the same way that we would approach any other dietary restriction. So for example, with a wedding group, we will usually send out an email asking them what their meal choice is for the reception, chicken, fish, steak, whatever it is that the bridegroom or the couple has selected. And then we also ask about any kind of like dietary restrictions and things like that. All of that is going over to the wedding coordinator at the resort. So and they have a seating chart for the wedding. So if somebody doesn't drink, our hope is, or our intention is that information gets passed along. So if you're there and you're the sober wedding guest, that the staff isn't, automatically pouring wine in your glass or giving you a glass of champagne or, just being sensitive to, what you need.
I love it. Yeah. Because sometimes, messing up your entire sobriety could just be like within your reach.
Exactly.
Like, it's right there. Oh my God. So that's really cool that you guys have thought about all of that and that it's it's just like being allergic to strawberries. I mean, when you have alcoholism like I do, it is manifested as an allergy. It is like a disease, like something happens in my body when I drink that doesn't happen to other people when they drink, like I can't, like if I have one drink, I can't just stop. Like I have to have more. And that doesn't happen for normal-ish people. Not that there is any such thing as normality anymore.
Exactly.
But you get what I'm saying. So it's cool that there's all of those like kind of just supports and preventative things in place, because so many times we're reactive instead of proactive. And so it's cool to know that like somebody could go through your company or, use these resorts that we're suggesting and actually maintain their sobriety. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Well, yeah, I think that, I have been to resorts, where as a vegetarian, I found it really challenging to find things to eat that I enjoyed. And so many people associate, like having wine with dinner or, having drinks at the swim up bar as part of the vacation experience. But it doesn't have to be, and I just think that everyone has a right to relax and enjoy their vacation in a way that serves them, and if the thing that serves them is not drinking, then they should be 100% able to go to an all-inclusive resort, go to a destination wedding, and and still have a really great time and not feel awkward because they're the person not drinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Okay. So just kind of going a little different question, what do you think the benefit is of traveling for your wedding, of having a destination, of doing this destination honeymoons? Like what do you think people do that?
Oh my gosh, it's so much less expensive. It's so much less expensive to have a destination wedding than it is to get married at home. I mean, you can have it. Oh my gosh.
I thought it was the opposite.
No. Travel aside, right? And typically the wedding couple is not picking up the cost of the travel for their guests. Guests usually pay for themselves. Guests spend an average of about $2,000 a person for their travel. But you can have a destination wedding with 75 guests and spend $5,000. If you have a wedding at home with 75 to 100 guests, you're going to spend $30,000.
21,500.
Yeah, exactly.
In 2019.
Yeah. So it's so much more affordable to have a destination wedding than it is to get married at home. I think the average wedding in Columbus right now, I read that the average wedding in Columbus is $30,000. So, I mean,
just buy a house.
Buy a house. Exactly. We, we rarely, I would say our average for our company, and we're doing weddings with 35 to 100 people, is usually under 20,000
Wow.
for the ceremony and reception. So,
And is that a price primarily for like Mexico and the Caribbean? Or is that also like if you wanted to, I mean, obviously, if you wanted to go to Europe or something, it would probably be a lot more.
it's a totally different animal over
Okay.
there than it is in the Caribbean and Mexico.
Yeah. But like, what islands in the Caribbean do you take people to?
Sure. Usually in the Caribbean, Jamaica and the DR are the two most affordable for destination weddings. They're both easy to get to. Airfare is, usually affordable. They're a pretty quick flight from most places in the US. So yeah, so the bulk of our weddings are Mexico, Jamaica, and the DR. Oh my gosh, excuse me. St. Lucia is one of my favorite islands. We've had some weddings in St. Lucia as well. It's just, it's a more expensive island overall. Flights are more expensive to St. Lucia. Hotels tend to be a little bit higher, but St. Lucia looks, it looks like Bora Bora. So if you can afford it, it's a great option.
And they do manta ray night, like scuba experiences with manta rays. St. Lucia is beautiful. That'd be awesome. Okay. So yeah, see, I always had in my mind that like a destination wedding or a destination honeymoon would be so, well, I mean, obviously I had a destination honeymoon, but like a destination wedding would be so out of reach because I thought it'd be so much more expensive. But man, I've looked at some of those pictures of the resorts on your website, and I'm like, oh man, maybe we'll have to do a vow renewal or something.
Yeah, in St. Lucia.
St. Lucia. With the mantas. That would be super fun. And we were chatting before we started recording that you actually go to some of these places so that you can authentically recommend. Is that right?
That's true. Yes. So, so I was in St. Lucia in June. I was in Jamaica in April. I was in Mexico in May. I'm going to Mexico. I know. I'll be in Mexico at the end of this month, and then I'm actually taking a vacation. I'm going to Mexico for Christmas for 4 days. So I'm super excited about it. I mean, again, there's no way that any travel agent can see every single hotel, right? It's just not possible. But we try to vet the places that we're sending people, because not every hotel is the right fit for everyone,
Yeah. What are you looking for when you're vetting these hotels?
Sure. I don't like the big mega resorts. I don't like the big 2,000 room resorts. I like a smaller resort. I'm looking for great food and how well that, again, they work with people that have food allergies. That's really important to me. We're typically looking at the wedding venues at the resort to see, what kind of wedding venues they have. Do they have a rooftop? Do they have a pier? Do they have like infinity pools are really in right now where people look like they're standing on the water. We've seen some of those. We look to see how good the service is. I'm really picky about things. I'm really picky about coffee.
Me too. I have my coffee like right here as we're talking.
Yeah, like nothing makes me happier than when I get to a hotel and there's an espresso machine. I'm like, yes, this is. Whereas if there's like an old Mr. Coffee, I'm like, no, I want an espresso machine in my room. How easy the resort is to get around. Like if you've got a wedding group with 40 people, you don't want to put them in a resort with, 600 rooms. They're going to spend all their time like trying to find each other,
Yeah.
So, a resort that has a smaller footprint, that's easy to get around, clean, you know, that has places where people can have peace and quiet and lay by the pool or lay at the beach and read a book, you know, or if somebody wants, you know, to play volleyball on the beach or something a little bit louder, that there's an option for that too. So those are some of the things that we always look at the beach, you know, especially if somebody's going to have a beach wedding, they want to have a super pretty beach. So we're always looking at the beaches, you know, we have take a lot of beach pictures. A lot of times I'll see, you know, how long, like if somebody is in a room that's considered beachfront, how many steps is it actually from the room down to where the beach is, things like that.
Right, because they always say just steps from the beach.
Yeah,
they're like, not how many? You actually walk, you're like stepping 1, 2, like really? That's service, right?
Yes.
What's service?
You know, if you're going to tell somebody it's a beachfront room, it should be beachfront should be on the bottom floor so somebody can walk out and put their toes in the sand. It should not be, you got to take a shuttle and you got to take, and I've seen stuff like that and it shouldn't, no.
Yeah, I agree. And there was a time where we stayed in a place that was like an ocean view room, but it was on the side, like here. So here's the ocean. And so if you like poke your head out of the room, oh, there it is.
That room. Yeah.
That is not an ocean view or ocean front. If I have to lean out the window.
Yeah, it's not.
Or like if I'm sitting down on my balcony, I can't see anything. But if I stand up, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to have somebody just to kind of vet that ahead of time and be like, okay, room 3B is a no-go, like, or whatever. That's very cool. That's very, very cool. And now it sounds like you're adding in the sobriety lens too, as more and more people are getting sober. And that also is just refreshing and makes me feel like more confident about traveling, you know, places and just having that opportunity instead of having so much anxiety about, oh man, should I go to her wedding? You know, it's like, okay, it's going to be a bit of a flight. And then what if it's all alcohol? It's like, this is just, it's making things easier. And that's so important. So important.
I think too, it's really important that you, if you're working with a travel agent, that you're telling your travel agent, like, you know, I don't drink. And these are some of the things that would be upsetting to me. Is this resort that you're recommending? Is this something that they're going to be able to manage? Like I remember, I had a client once, he never told us that he smoked. Like we never had a conversation about it. Well, you can't smoke anywhere anymore, like nowhere. And so when hotels really started cracking down on the smoking thing, this is when he was traveling, and they went to Costa Rica and he literally had to like walk outside the gates of the hotel to be able to smoke, and he was really mad about it. And I'm like, you never told me, or I would have been happy to ask that question, you know? So I think even if it's embarrassing, and I mean, I'm telling you, there isn't a lot I haven't heard, right? Sure. I have had people call me and say, I didn't want to say anything, or the couple that's getting married doesn't know, I have a felony conviction. Am I going to be able to get in the country? You know, I had a guy that didn't tell me once, and he got yanked off a plane in Jamaica and promptly put on a plane back to the United States. There's literally nothing I haven't heard. So I think, you know, we're not going to judge somebody if they say, hey, I'm in recovery, you know, I want to go on vacation. I want to make sure that, you know, we want you to enjoy yourself, you know, and have a wonderful time. And so you just got to communicate with your travel consultant. If you're working with a travel consultant, if you're trying to DIY it, I would not recommend, if you have special requests, that you use an online site, go directly to the hotel. Talk to the concierge at the hotel. And, you know, because a lot of times when you're just talking to a reservations department, you're talking to somebody in a call center that's not even in the same country, right? Talk to the concierge at the hotel and ask them directly, you know, are you going to be able to accommodate this?
Okay, that's a really good tip too. And all the more reason to have a, travel agent or travel company help you out for sure.
I agree, but I might be I might be a little biased, but yeah, I would say use a travel agent.
Well, and oftentimes, I mean, it's not like, I don't know if you have an additional fee for your services, like a big fee or a small fee, but sometimes I was surprised with how low fees are.
Right. So that's a great question. All travel agencies, right? Us, online agencies, we all get paid the same way. We all get paid by the hotels after the clients have checked out.
Mhm.
We charge an upfront fee because a lot of times we're working on things for a year, year and a half. Like I talked to somebody a couple of weeks ago that's getting married in 2025, you know. I might be working on your honeymoon or your destination wedding for a year or two before we get paid.
Right.
And so yeah, so we charge an upfront fee for our services before we get started doing all the legwork, because again, so often, especially with a wedding, I mean, a wedding, oh my gosh, we're building a wedding website, we're negotiating the contracts, there's so much communication from the time we kick off the wedding until the time the guests come home. There are literally like 10 different touch points along the way. The payment reminders, RSVP reminders, reminders about how flights work, how the shuttles work, how trip insurance works. Like it's so much communication, it's so much work. And so, yeah, but, I think that you'll find with most travel agencies, we're not marking up rates. So if
Mhm.
you are booking a Sandals resort through me, or you're booking a Sandals resort directly through Sandals, the price is going to be exactly the same.
Right. Because in my understanding, is that basically you guys get paid from the company
Correct.
versus from the person at the wedding. And so essentially it's paying for partially a wedding planner. I mean, really,
Yeah.
that's a huge value. And yeah, I don't blame you. That's a lot of work.
It's
That's
a
a
lot of
lot of
work.
work. I about lost my mind and decided, why am I doing this by myself when I got married? I was like, whew, never again, but hopefully never again anyway.
Yeah.
Anyways, we had discussed that you might have a free gift or something for our viewers. So you
I
want to chat about that?
Yes. So we offer a free consultation if someone wants to talk about honeymoon, destination wedding, just getting away, and you're looking for, a great all-inclusive resort or somewhere in Europe, and you're worried about traveling while staying sober. We'd be happy to help you. So you can schedule a free consultation directly through our website, which is blisshoneymoons.com. We also, during the pandemic, I wrote a destination wedding planner book. It's got lots of checklists and timelines, comes in a super pretty box. You can use it for yourself, or it makes a great gift. You can buy it on Etsy, and we have a promo code that I have already forgotten.
It's sober traveling.
For travel. Yeah. So, and I think you're going to post the links,
I will.
correct? Yeah. And you can purchase it through Etsy. At the end of the month, we're offering a 20% discount to all the listeners.
That's so awesome. Okay, so all through December, they have through December, is that right?
Through
Or
November.
November? Okay. Well, this will air in December.
Well, then I'll change it and it'll be for the end of December.
I know we're recording early, so this is our past selves setting all this up for now.
Okay. Yeah, I'll change it. It'll be good through the end of December.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's great too. Just to get started, even somebody's working with you, they're not working with you, whatever. Having those organizational tools is huge, and having them for a discount. Okay, sign me up.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, we're getting to the end of our time here. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or some final thoughts?
Like I said, I think the hotels are starting to come around in serving people better who don't drink. I think they've still got a ways to go. So, I think that with any dietary request, you need to have a little patience and a little, give them a little bit of grace. but we continue to have conversations with our hotel partners because we believe it's important, right? We don't want anybody to feel left out. I think everybody deserves to feel included and enjoy their vacation and relax in a way that feels good to them. So
Absolutely. And thank you so much. And thank you for your awareness and for being here today with
sure.
me. This has been really, really great. And now I might have to go start looking up a couple of resorts in Mexico, not for a wedding, but maybe just to escape Oregon gloom.
Yes. Yes. And give us a call if we can help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. And
Thanks
thank you, Laura, for being here. And we'll see you tomorrow.